Today on the podcast, we're going to talk through an opportunity that I have in my business. I'm just kind of lay it out for Josh and see if he has any ideas and talk through some of the ideas that I have. Also, I talked with ChatGPT a lot yesterday just to bounce ideas off of it. And so yeah, we'll talk through that too. So here's kind of the opportunity that I have. There is a software. I actually helped build an automation for this company a couple weeks ago, like before Thanksgiving. The automation was different from the software that they're building. However, there's kind of two opportunities in one. The first one is the automation that I built, the guy who I built it for wants to turn it into a scalable software to sell to other companies. It's kind of like a um you you call a phone number and you can talk about sales calls you've had, and then it sends it to your CRM. I think I mentioned it maybe a little bit, I'm not sure. But so that's an opportunity, which is cool, but that's kind of its own thing. The main thing I want to talk about is this guy is building a software for AI or for businesses that basically the employees and executives in a business take a survey. They all take a survey. All those surveys, the answers come together. And then this software gives them insights on how they can implement AI. It also gives them an AI policy, and then it gives them specific vendor like AI software recommendations and allows them to vet the software to make sure that it fits with the values that they have as a business. The opportunity that I have is to either work like partner as my business with them or potentially become an employee partner under them. And so I'm trying to decide what I should do with that. Um, Part of my ego wants control over my time, like I've talked about a lot before. However, if there was an opportunity to be like get some equity in the business as an employee partner, then it's not really that much different from me having my own business anyways, because I would be helping build a business that I have part of it as an asset, which is the whole point of this business anyways, is to like build something that is an asset that I can have and potentially sell later to gain some financial freedom. The other two pieces of that is I'm doing the exact same thing that I would be doing as my own business. Um, and then the last part is control over my time. That would be the only thing that maybe changes a little bit. In my own business, obviously, I have total control over anything that I do, pretty much. If I were to go work for them, then I wouldn't. But also, there's like two people there right now. So I'd probably have more flexibility than if it was like a 50-person company where I'm number 51 and they already have processes and systems for how much people work. Uh, I One note is that I haven't gotten any official numbers or anything. There was just an initial conversation where this guy was like, "Well, how do you think we could work together? Would it be better to do a partnership? Would you want to work for us, etc." So I don't have like super specifics, but I'm trying to think about what my answer might be if we were to get to the part where there's more specific information. If if you have any questions or like if I need to clarify anything, uh, let me know. But yeah, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, my first initial thought is that when you texted me and said that you had a opportunity that you wanted to talk about, I was like, "Oh my God, is he going to buy a timeshare?" Other than that, so I'm glad that's not what's going on.
I'm actually getting a
Uh,
condo in Miami. No, I'm just kidding.
no, uh, I'm sure for some person, condos or a timeshare works out great,
I
but not the
guess.
people that I know. My other thought was, uh, I am sympathetic to the opinion that partnerships are terrible, uh, unless you are the uh, what does it mean? General partner, and you've got limited partners. My father, in his, uh, one of the things that my father said many years ago that I always think about is, how did he term it? Three things not to do with friends. And it's unless you're willing to lose all the money or lose the friendship. And let's move in together, go into business together, or loan to each other. Uh, Now, that's not to say that it can't be done or it hasn't been done well, but I think it was just last week, actually. I was thinking that people don't adequately plan for the implosion of their partnerships. What exactly is the exit criteria if things go poorly? What is the exit criteria if things go well? Uh, because that seems to always be an issue when it ends. Uh, and people are stuck figuring out, like, how do we split up equity and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, when you mentioned partnership versus kind of employee with equity, I had that thought. Even if you are an employee with equity, like, what does that look like? Are there terms on payouts of equity and like how quickly that's done? Because if there's a partner that wants to wait 15 years before paying out any equity, then uh, you don't get to see the value in that for a while, unless there's cash flow that they're distributing or something. Let's see. What other thoughts do I have about that?
One initial thing I might clarify about the partnership is not like we would go into partnership on a joint venture. It would be like, hey, you refer clients to me, I refer clients to you, that type of partnership. The employee with equity, I guess, would kind of fall more under the partnership, but also I'm I wouldn't even ask for any majority at all because I didn't start this business. But if I could slowly like build more equity in the business, that would be ideal as I hit certain milestones or whatever.
My thought on that would be come to a conclusion of exactly what amount of equity is would change that decision for you. Like what percentage of this new venture would you need to have exposure to make it worth your while, knowing that you don't enjoy being a employee?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about that a little bit because I've never worked for another startup before where I would get equity. So I literally have zero idea how much equity would be fair to start out with and to slowly build because like is is 20% too much? Probably. 2% too little? Probably. I don't know. So I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna talk to ChatGPT a little bit more and figure out what a fair amount is that's not me pushing way too hard because I don't want to start out the gate being like, hey, can I get like 51%? Oh wait, am I the majority share owner?
Mm-hmm.
There's already two other guys too, so that's not like that would ever happen, but you know what I'm saying. I don't want to push for way too much that's not fair because I had no idea that
Yeah.
it wasn't fair.
The other couple thoughts I had is, or one thought I had was, unless you plan on pivoting, just my general thoughts about all AI tools is that we're still in the gold rush of them. So if this is purely an AI play, an AI advisory play, then unless the scope changes, if it remains what kind of you articulated, it sounds like it's going to be a short term. Like, this is we're going to build this business and maybe sell it. Is that accurate or not?
I would say kind of. I think that there's definitely that uh, uh there could be that possibility where it's very short term, but also I think that AI software itself is changing so much that new software is coming out and companies are going to need the software that is being built, the one that I'm talking about, in order to make sure that they're continuing to implement new software that's coming out that still aligns with their values. The reason why this opportunity is kind of piques my interest is because in terms of what I'm trying to build and do with AI, it is almost no different. Like it is literally almost the exact same thing that I'm doing with my business, just 10 times better because they're doing it in one software, not just like my brain thinking for a company. And I would still be able to do implementation afterwards. So it's actually kind of crazy how closely aligned my business is with the software that they're building, which is why I'm like, I don't think a transition would be that hard to go from one to the other if I
Mm-hmm.
were to do it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely could be short term, but I feel like there's a way that it could be more long term if that made sense for the business.
Yeah, I have trouble articulating the moat for most AI based businesses. So to me, being like, I get in this partnership, I'm going to say expected timeline is 5 years, 10 years possibly, but only if we remain flexible and are willing to change our scope because the AI is changing so quickly that unless there is an obvious moat somewhere in our business, um, it's likely to change drastically, or we can just get something out there and then sell it and then move on to something else. Um,
Yeah.
because the chances of someone coming up with a chat GPT uh, advisor that would advise a business to do that instead of you making a standalone software is high. That, like, unless you can articulate the why when you do it will you have a significant competitive advantage over ChatGPT going ahead and making a advisor agent. Like
Yeah, no,
as you
that's
articulated it, it sounded like, oh, that's an LLM that somebody could make. I could see how somebody could make that.
yeah, it's hard to explain the whole software because it is one of the most extensive softwares I've seen, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, an LLM could definitely do pieces of it. I would probably need to talk to the owner more and be like, okay, what do you think is your value proposition that no one else can copy? This guy's also built and sold, I think, a few businesses already. So he does have
Mm-hmm.
some previous experience with doing that. So it could be a short-term build and sell type of thing, which at that point might even make more sense for me because if I were to get some equity in the business, then we we were to build it, if that were to happen, then I could have some financial freedom to go do other ventures and not really have to worry about money as much, doing it specifically for the money. But yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. That's a great thought because sometimes I tend to have shiny object syndromes, and I want to make sure that I'm not going into this having that mindset. Like I want to see the good and the bad and the ugly. So I have my I see it all. Yeah.
And to play the other side of that, it may be worth to do it if if you want to be near somebody that has experience creating tools or creating things and then selling them. Yeah, it may be a good experience just to do it for that reason. Uh, I guess what I was getting at is like, what's your cost? How much time commitment will it take? Versus what's the payoff plan? Um, which is not that clear in a startup, I'm assuming, but just that you're going into a competitive space. Even in my tax prep stuff or in bookkeeping, I expect in 10 years it's going to be very different than what it is now. Like we'll have to, we'll be doing the same thing, um, which is working with clients to facilitate clean books or a tax return, but it will probably look drastically different. And we may be doing different forms of compliance than we're doing currently. Uh, Somebody articulated, actually, yesterday I was listening to a podcast, and a gentleman said that people talk about, will AI fundamentally change bookkeeping? And he said, the problem with that perspective is that bookkeeping has already been eliminated, but what we call bookkeeping has changed. So he was saying back when early 1900s, late 1800s, whatever, that you had a ledger book and you were putting into, he was like, bookkeeping was just taking a transaction, categorizing it, and putting it in the ledger. That was basically all bookkeeping. Now that's a small portion of what we actually do, and we do all this other compliance stuff around it, but we still call it bookkeeping. So he was like, the technology has fundamentally changed the thing. It just over time we've differentiated what it's called. No
And I
competitive
think AI
advantage in
will move on to
bookkeeping.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And AI will continue to, and technology will continue to change that. So we need to change with it. The thing we haven't necessarily experienced is it seems like the speed of change is very fast. So keeping up with that. But all that also should be taken in the context of what we talked about before, which is that for the first time in my life, I feel like an early adopter. Uh, like you and I probably use AI more than, way more than the people we're around. I had 2 conversations with people who were their perspective was pretty much, why do we need AI? AI is generally slop. And even so far as to push over into the side of, I think AI might be a bad thing. And finally, after talking with both these people for a while, individually, I was like, do you use AI? How frequently do you use AI? And they're like, oh, almost never. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that explains a lot. I use it every day, literally every day, and increasingly more with
Yeah.
like tick type things. But these people don't. They don't have any tasks that they use it for. So you're competing against the other early adopters and the other innovators. On the other hand, seems like there's a huge pool of people who are just not. They pulled up ChatGPT one time and had it turn a text into a poem, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's it's really funny because my dad is doing this project where he has to literally copy and paste stuff. But there's more to that. Like he has to get links from specific places, copy them, paste them somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you could just ask ChatGPT how to do it, right? And he is so it's funny because he's like working with me on how to use AI responsibly, but he's so I don't know if it's like nervous to use AI or what, but just so against using it himself. Like he just doesn't want to do it because it's too much work. I'm like, it will make it easier for you. I don't know why you think it's too much work. Right now it's too much
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
because you have no idea what to do. And so I have to show him like every single time the exact same thing I showed him the last 5 times when he could just ask ChatGPT and be like, okay, go click here, then paste, or then copy, then go over here and then paste. So yeah, no, it's funny how some people just don't. However, my mom, she has been very against it. Then she used it and she was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, and she's been learning about prompt engineering too and how prompts make things better. And she had all of her books from Audible. She wrote in ChatGPT, hey, can you give me an overview of all the books that I read this year and
Mm.
then some key takeaways? And it did. And she was like, that's crazy. That's so useful. And she really cares about using it responsibly, not cheating on stuff and not being lazy and not over relying on ChatGPT. But when it's used for good things, she's realized how powerful it is, which is cool because she was very much like, okay, I'm not going to use this ever until she really used it and saw how powerful it was.
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes it's just articulating the person how they would use it, because some people enjoy using it in completely other ways. I have a friend who he always texts me like dumb AI videos that are like, I don't know, Viking metal or something like that, or Klingon death metal or something. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, I would never think of taking my time to sit down with a computer and generate an AI music video of Vikings doing death metal, but that's some use that he likes. And like the people that I'm thinking of, there's probably at least one of them, if not both of them. I can think of vague ideas of ways they could use it at their job that they would actually find very useful. But until I can articulate to them, like, oh, you should use it because it could do this way faster, then it's hard to convince them that it's super useful. And it's change, and change is hard. The thing I was thinking about with doing a new project and it being hard to learn a new tool is that is also true of almost everything we learn. When I'm doing woodworking projects with my wife, like our kitchen table we made it. It's terrible, but we made it, and it was significantly cheaper than buying at the store. And I was sitting there the other day eating dinner, and I was like, I actually really like this table. But it was that way. I mean, it took twice as long and, I don't know, a third more expensive than it could have been, because it was hard learning all the tools and the techniques and whatever. But now if I did it again, it'd be way easier. And we tend to forget in school, elementary school, high school, that it's all that way. Why do I need long division? It's hard. Well, because if your calculator breaks, you'll never be able to do anything again.
If all the calculators in the world break, if all the
Yeah.
computers, calculators, phones, everything breaks, then you can do long division.
What I usually actually say is like, dividing a polynomial. Try putting that in your calculator. Now you probably can put it into ChatGPT, or it used to be
Although
Wolfram Alpha.
ChatGPT is not great at math, so
Right.
might need a different software for some. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
what's actually cool though about this software that I'm potentially going to work with is it gives executives insights onto how employees in your company are using AI. So one of the questions specifically on the survey is, what AI software do you use and how do you use it? And then it pulls that AI software from every single response and gives you like, here's all the software, here's all the different AI softwares that are currently being used. Here's how many people are using each one. Here's the percentage of your company that's actually using AI in general. And
Well, interesting.
I feel like it's really cool insights into what softwares people are really using. So I know there's a few, like back when I was working with you, there was a few people in our office who would use Perplexity or Chat, but not everyone. So it'd be like, okay, 3 out of whatever, 15, 16 people are using this software. A couple people are using this software. A couple people are using this software. And then it gives you ways to train people to use the softwares that are already being used by others in the
Hmm.
office. Because if it's useful to some people, it could be useful to more people. It's just they don't know about it or they haven't been trained on it. So I thought that was pretty cool. A pretty cool
Does it,
feature.
does, I mean, don't go into like super specifics, obviously. Uh, if you want to keep your trade secret, but, does it integrate with like while the person is working, does it suggest to them how to do something? Or is it like an optional training method that they go seek out? Because one thing that I have been thinking about this week actually was, now at the office, people are using different levels of Perplexity. We have one guy in the office that pays for GPT, and he'll experiment with GPT. Although in the past, GPT hasn't been good enough to do what us humans do on many tasks and be trustworthy. But as I articulated a couple episodes ago, this 5.2 is finally good enough to be able to put numbers in and manipulate to some extent. And so we have done that with data that has no client identification, even though he's on the paid version. Um, but in the office, we've got people who will use Perplexity. We've got people who never use Perplexity. Probably will never use Perplexity.
I think I know
They're
those
going to be
people.
late adopters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Accountants tend to be late adopters, it seems like, in my experience, um, unless necessarily changed. The the people who have started using specifically Perplexity more in the office are almost the exact same people who, somebody asks you a question and you think in your head, why didn't they just Google it?
All the time.
It's like the exact same distribution of people. The people who probably would have Googled it, or when they ask you the question, like as soon as they're done asking it, they're like, I don't know why I didn't just Google that,
Yeah.
are the people that are using Perplexity. And the people who already weren't looking up simple stuff on Google are the ones who are not using AI. So
That is so true.
we ran into a software, I think while you were still there, that if it were cheaper, I would have it tested for everybody in the office, which was you downloaded it onto your computer, and as you were working, it would monitor your keystrokes and your tasks. And specifically, I think it was Microsoft Office specific key commands. If you did something in a Microsoft Office product, so close a document or save a document, and you did it manually, went up to the little save button, clicked it, and then instead of Control S, it would have a little sidebar that would come in that would be like, you could have done this faster by using Control S to save the document. So you didn't have to go out of your way to learn a key command. It was integrated with your workflow. Because the people at my office who don't Google things are also not going to go seek out training on how to use AI. They're going to have to be told to do it.
Yeah. Many times those are the people who are right clicking and then pressing copy when
Yep.
Control C is like right there.
Uh-huh.
Uh, which is like I feel like Control C is probably the most basic that everyone knows, but then they still don't use it. No,
Yes.
the software that I'm working with, I don't think it gets that detailed, like literally watching your keystrokes and computer to give you insights,
But as a
but it
business
is,
owner, that would be the fastest way to train my
yeah,
employees.
that is very true. How much was the software that did that?
I don't remember. I can try to find it. I think I wrote it in my notes somewhere. Uh, I'll try to get the name of it. But yeah, it was a great idea. I love the idea.
Yeah, that is a cool idea. I feel like a lot of people would be a little hesitant for privacy reasons, to let something just watch their computer the whole time. But if it's at work, then,
And the software, it's not like agentic. It wasn't making any changes. It was just monitoring, and specifically monitoring Microsoft products, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, etc.
yeah, no, that makes sense. I Yesterday when I was talking with ChatGPT about this whole opportunity, I put together a framework document on here's how I would say yes, here's how I'd say no, some questions I need answered. So I have that, but I did want to get some of your thoughts on it. And I appreciate your thoughts on like what's the moat because that is definitely important. If there is no moat, it's just going to get taken over in a year. There's going to be
Yeah,
so much competition that's not
and
worth it
even if it's
anymore.
not taken over, you're going to be constantly putting in effort and money to stay competitive.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You do you have any other final thoughts or anything?
I don't think so. Sounds like a cool opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited either way, whether it happens, even if it doesn't happen, just to continue working through different opportunities that come my way. So, uh, for the audience, like and subscribe on YouTube. Um, Give us a 5-star review on Spotify, and That's the podcast for this week. We'll see you next week.